Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on our first episode of Chick Chat. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Teresa Phillips. I am female zone lead for the North. It's our job within BC Hockey to help promote and enhance female programming in the province. When the pandemic hit, we were looking for unique ways to keep you guys engaged and focused and active within the sport of hockey while things were changing, and we came about the idea of Chick Chats. And our first guest today had no hesitation in jumping on board with us. She is a 3-time Olympic medalist, 9-time medalist at Women's World, had a great career for 4 seasons at Cornell University, where in her rookie year she was not only Cornell's Rookie of the Year, but by unanimous selection was the Ivy League Rookie of the Year. She played a few seasons in the CWHL. You might have seen her most recently playing in the NHL All-Star Game 3-on-3. And now she has the distinction of being our first guest on Chick Chat. Rebecca, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm a huge advocate for multi-sport athletes, but I think for me, I just really enjoyed being outside and being, playing sports, being with my siblings. It was really important to me. And so I started when I was 4 years old playing hockey, actually in an outdoor hockey league. So we played all of our games and practices were outside, which is crazy to think nowadays, minus 30 weather. And I was outside playing with my siblings and playing against other teams. So it was a really great experience for me. But that's kind of when I started to fall in love with hockey, playing in the outdoor rink, just being outside with all of my friends and competing and being around everyone. It was just so much fun. So then I continued to play throughout my childhood in Sudbury. I played with the boys growing up because there weren't any girls playing at the time. I think one other girl from Sudbury was playing, so we both played in a boys league. And now, actually, when I come back home to Sudbury, it's amazing to see the development of women's hockey, especially in my hometown, seeing that there were multiple girls teams of each age group. And so there's so many more girls that have signed up and played hockey. And now there's actually a place for girls to play against each other, which is remarkable to see. And hopefully we continue to keep growing the game because it is an amazing sport. And I think to keep playing and keep having fun that's the main thing. So for me, I grew up playing boys and then switched over to girls in high school. And I actually played soccer, basketball, and I did track and field at a high level as well. And I had to decide in high school what I wanted to do. If I wanted to focus solely on hockey, I had 2 older sisters and an older brother, and then 2 younger brothers. And my older sisters had already gone to university. So I was familiar with the process of going NCAA. So my one sister, she went to Harvard University. She got a scholarship and played soccer and soccer and hockey there. And then my other sister actually went to Cornell and played hockey there on the team. So for me, that's something I wanted to accomplish and follow my sisters in their footsteps. And so it was a big decision for me if I wanted to go Ivy League or go to a scholarship state school. And I decided to focus on my education because I think that is very important. And it was always stressed when I was growing up with my parents that education was always number one. So I always had to focus on making sure that my grades were really good. And I had to focus on that first. And then sports was next on my list. So for me, and then social was last. So I think for me, my biggest deciding factor was either Harvard or Cornell University. And I know the process can be a little bit stressful at times, but I just chose a school that really suited me. And I think Cornell was a better fit. I'm from a smaller city. So Boston at Harvard was a little intimidating. And so I wanted to focus on on going to Cornell with my other sister Sarah. So I was able to go there and compete for Cornell's NCAA team, the women's team, for 4 years, and that was an amazing experience for me. But I think the biggest lessons that I've learned playing NCAA and going to college, and a lot of you girls will need to learn as well, is time management and putting your priorities first. So for me, hockey was definitely a priority, but doing well in school was also a priority for me. So making sure that you have your homework done, that you're thinking ahead, because being a varsity athlete is very difficult. You don't have a lot of time, so you have to really make sure that you utilize the time appropriately. And so for me, that was the schoolwork, trying to get everything done on time, and then also focusing on working out, practices, and traveling for games. So I missed quite a bit of school for hockey, as well as the national team, because I was also competing with the national team throughout my school year. So I would miss up to a month of school each semester. So that is a lot of time, especially at university. So you have to really make sure that you're on top of things. So that was really important to me. And then, so I think now after college, so when I first started with the national team, I was 17 years old, and I was recruited, and they asked me to come try out for the development team. So there are steps that you take to get to the senior level to be able to play on the national team and then go to an Olympics. So I kind of did all those steps to lead up to making the senior team. And so for me, focusing on wanting to make that national team, I think the first time I had that goal was in the 2002 Olympics, which all of you are probably way too young to remember that, or probably weren't even born then. So, but the women and the men both won gold in Salt Lake City. And I remember watching that game with my dad, and I turned to him and said, I want to do that one day. That's a goal of mine, and it's something that I wanted to achieve. And he believed in me. My parents were huge supporters of my skill and just me being on the ice and wanting to achieve that goal. And they had complete faith in me. And so at that point was the point where I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I set my sights high, trying to achieve that goal. And the first opportunity was when I was 17 years old. I went to the Worlds was in Winnipeg, Canada. So that was an incredible experience. I was an alternate, so I didn't actually get to play, but I was able to practice with all the girls. All these girls that I looked up to, like Haley Wickenheiser, Carolyn Ouellette, all these big name players that I had watched when I was younger. And so to be able to practice with them and learn from them, I really grew as a player that year. And then the next year I had made that team in 2008, the World Championship team. So I had finally accomplished my goal of making the team. And then now my next step was like, okay, I want to make this Olympic team, and I want to represent my country at the Olympics and potentially win a gold medal. So my first opportunity was in Vancouver, which was an incredible experience. I was still in university, so I had to take a year off. It was after my second year. And so I packed up and moved to Calgary, where we're centralized. So how the process works is they take 28 players in Calgary. Everyone moves there, and it's full time. And only 23 players make the team. So throughout the year, it's a tryout every day. So they're evaluating you consistently on the ice, off the ice, every day from August up until Christmas, where we finalize the team. So anytime throughout that period, they could make cuts. So you really weren't aware and didn't know exactly when these cuts were going to be made. So it definitely was stressful and mentally, and it was so physically exhausting that year. We trained every day. We were skated every day, sometimes multiple times a day. We played 4 games a week. With travel, it was just a really hectic schedule. So, and it's a tryout, so you always have to be on. You always have to be at your best. So it was definitely a huge growing year for me. I think I grew as a player. I really understood how to deal with with the pressure and gaining confidence in myself was something that I struggled with before that. And I think for me, being able to make that team when I was had just turned I was 19. I was turning 20 at the Olympics, so I was young, and being able to experience that was an incredible experience, and I learned so much about myself. But I remember when I had met with the coaches in December before they made the team, and they called me in. They take one person in at a time, and then they call you and they tell you if you have made it or not. And I remember when they told me, I just instantly started bawling and crying, and I was just so happy that finally a dream of that I've had for my entire life almost was I finally had accomplished it, and I'm able to go to Olympics. It was so surreal. I didn't believe that it was actually happening even when I was at the Olympics. It was crazy, but I remember I called my parents, and they were so excited for me, and they started crying, and so it was just an amazing experience to be able to share that with them, and then being able to go to an Olympics in Canada and be able to win a gold medal for our country. It's hard to even explain in words. I get goosebumps even thinking about it. But there was the final game. We won 2-0, and there was 20,000 people in the stands watching, with all wearing red and white. So I can hardly hear anyone yell. Like, I could hardly hear my line mates yelling for the puck. It was so loud. It was just so electric, and I'll never forget that moment, getting that medal around my neck and to accomplish that goal I've had for so long. So I would say to all you girls that to always dream big, to try to strive for something greater. And I don't think you should ever let anyone say that you can't do it. I mean, when I was young, I really didn't think I would have won a gold medal for my country, or even have made the national team. So I think just knowing that you can achieve things if you really just put your mind to it and you believe it. It really takes a lot of hard work and dedication. I think a lot of people see all the fluffy stuff that goes on, and like, oh, it's so exciting, you win a gold medal. It's everyone's so happy, and but there's a lot of sweat and tears and hard work that go into winning a gold medal or just making an Olympic team. It's a lot of hard work, but it really obviously was all worth it to me to be able to accomplish something like that. So after that, I was able to go to 2 more Olympics, and I won another gold medal in Sochi. And then we had lost the last Olympics in 2018. We got a silver medal, which again is, in the grand scheme of things, it's an amazing accomplishment, but definitely, you're always striving for a gold medal. And for me, it was devastating to lose that game. I guess you guys probably remember that game. It was only 2 years ago. But to lose in a shootout, I mean, you can't get any closer of a match. So it was an exciting game, but very heartbreaking. And it's almost a motivator to really, I mean, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be done, but I think after losing, I can't really stop playing after a loss. So I really want to try to strive to make that next Olympics and bring gold back for Canada again. So that's a little bit of my journey. I can get into other things if you girls have any questions. I've definitely been through a lot. I've been through some injuries, a little bit of confidence issues. So I think it's all normal to have struggles throughout your career, and it's a matter of how you deal with those struggles and failures and how you bounce back from them. I think it's the mindset it's just to be positive and to really push through any adversity that comes your way.
I would like to hear a little bit about what it meant to you guys to be invited to the NHL All-Star game and do 3-on-3 and have that exposure with everything that's happening with the professional women's hockey movement, and just talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. That's obviously a big topic. I should have known. Yeah, so I was actually able to go to the NHL All-Star the NHL All-Star weekend 2 years ago. there was only 4 girls that went, and we were able to compete in a skills competition. So we demonstrated one of the skills on the ice. So I was able to be on the ice with all the top NHL guys and talk to them while the skills competition was going on. It was an amazing experience, but also very intimidating. And I had to demonstrate one of the stick handling through the pucks, and then going around the cones, and then picking up the puck through and putting it through the lights. So that was like, it's so much different than playing a game. It's all eyes are on you. So I think I was more nervous for that than an Olympic final game. It was so nerve-wracking. I couldn't believe it. The stands were full, and that didn't even bother me, but I think it was the fact that it's just not something that you're used to. You play hockey, and this is just something totally different. So I just wanted to make sure I didn't fall. But I think it was an incredible experience. And this past year, I think even topped that. It was 3-on-3, which I'm sure a lot of you had saw, being able to compete in that, Canada versus US, having the top girls play against each other in the NHL All-Star weekend was incredible. We were treated so well, and all the NHL guys were incredible and so supportive of us. And I think for us to have that experience to promote women's hockey, to try to get that exposure that we deserve, I think it was an amazing experience. And NHL really, we're really thankful that they had allowed us and brought us in that weekend. And I think hopefully it continues. I'm not sure with everything going on what will happen, but it was an incredible weekend, and there's just so much skill on the ice. And I think the 3-on-3 really showed how much skill women's hockey does have. There was a lot of highlights in that game, and just the intensity and the quickness of the game was really good. I know there was a lot of positive remarks after, and a lot of people were very surprised, and but also just really enjoyed that the most out of any skill or the men's 3-on-3. So it was really cool. I got to meet some players like, Patrick Kane, like all these players that I grew up watching play. It was pretty special moment for me.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to watch too. What about your university route? I got a couple kids on here that are, really looking to go on the university route. Did you have an agent that looked out for you? How did you get to that route?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different back then than it is now. I think they recruit really young, but the process for me was I narrowed it down really quickly. So I had a lot of schools sending me stuff, calling me, wanting to talk to me, and I really just knew I wanted to go to an Ivy League school. I knew that education was really important for me. I wanted to get an Ivy League education. So I had told all the other schools right away that that's what I want to do. And if I don't get in, then I'll contact you and let you know. But that was the route I wanted to take. And I think my parents really instilled in me the importance of education, always wanting me to get to do well in school. And my 2 older sisters had already done that process and had picked Harvard and Cornell. So those were my 2 schools. I kind of followed in their footsteps. They were my role models growing up. And so I wanted to go to either school, and it actually was kind of funny. Both sisters really wanted me to go to their school, so they almost fought over it, trying to influence me to go to either one. But I just thought Cornell was really it fit me the best. It was I was really intimidated by the big city, and so I think advice I would give is I think you should pick a school that you feel most comfortable in. I don't think you should just pick a school because the hockey team was really good and they won a championship the year before. Because for me, I want to be able to learn. So I really loved my coach at Cornell. I thought he was so smart. He was a very offensive player. So I knew that he would help me become the player that I wanted to be. And so that was a big part of my decision. But also I think picking a school, you have to realize that teams change and programs change quite drastically, like really quickly. So because when I started at Cornell, the year I came in, or before I came in, they had won 4 games. So they were at the bottom of the stats. They were not a very good team. And within 3 years, well, 2 years, I took a year off. So I guess 3 years, we had made it to the Frozen Four, so top 4 in the nation. So I mean, it changed so quickly. You get a couple really good recruiting classes, and your team is now one of the top teams when it was one of the worst a couple of years ago. So I think a lot of people make the mistake of choosing a school because just of how good the school is and their record. And I just think a program can really change quickly if I mean, you believe in the program, but if you have the right recruiting class and the right team. So I don't know, those are just kind of my pointers, but I think to just not be overwhelmed with the process and to really make sure you're making the right decisions for you and what you feel most comfortable in. But I think anywhere you go, you really will love. I mean, I loved my 4 years at Cornell. I think the best 4 years of my life. And so you should really look forward to college because it's a lot of fun.